I'm Lewis Love, and you are on the front porch. And you're on the front porch with the Beanie Anyabwili and Anthony Carter. And today we're going to be reviewing a book by Dr. Eric Mason, Manhood Restored. What is the subtitle again?
How the Gospel Makes Men Whole.
The gospel makes men whole.
How does the gospel make men whole?
Well, part of what it does, I think Eric argues so wonderfully, is that it restores a lot of things. That the gospel and namely a focus on Jesus, who is man par excellence in his incarnation, puts back in place things that have been distorted in the fall and distorted by our sin. So it rightly reorders man to Christ. It rightly reshapes our view of Jesus, not as an effeminate, long, flowing hair, guy, meek and mild, but as someone who was courageous and in his holiness was bold. And it rightly restores our relationship to women, to our wives, and to our families by putting things in proper order.
Okay.
And so that worldview, which grows out of who Jesus is and grows out of the gospel and grows out of the narrative of creation, fall, redemption, consummation, puts the man back together following the distortion of sin.
Carter, you've read numerous books on manhood, right? I mean, there's a website dedicated to biblical manhood and womanhood. What was different, or what did Eric Mason add to the conversation in his book?
I think he brought much of the conversation on manhood back to, I think, the original intention that God had created in the beginning, which I really appreciated, because he reminded us, one, that God created with intention, and therefore manhood should be intentional. And so you go back and you look at what was the intention of God from the very beginning, and Eric unpacks that, and then he reminds us, therefore, in developing men, we have to be intentional about it. And then he goes out, and he goes through, and he shows us, how that intentionality comes about. I think that's one of the things that really stood out to me, as opposed to some of the other books on manhood that I've read.
I tell you, just reading the book, man, I was probably 2 or 3 chapters in, and I literally stopped and said, why am I so encouraged right now reading this book? And it was 2 things. I don't read a lot of manhood books.
Is that right?
No.
Now that's surprising to you.
Well, I'm too busy trying to be one.
Got time to be reading.
But no, honestly, here's why. Because a lot of manhood books, family books, parenting books just feel like law. And when I'm done, I'm discouraged. And so this is why reading Eric's book was so fresh for me. So I'm 3 chapters in, and I stopped. I literally stopped. And I'm like, why am I so encouraged? And then it dawns on, and he states it in the conclusion. It's because he had me looking at Jesus the whole time. And that was a significant addition to the literature in my mind, is I'm just over and over and over again, he's pointing to Jesus and unpacking who Jesus is and what he's done. And that was balm for me.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Now we've met. We know Dr. Eric Mason. Could you? I know I could. Could you hear him?
Oh, yeah.
Could you hear him talking? Could you feel him talking?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, every time the chapter opens up, each chapter opens up, and you just hear him saying, I got a confession to make. I like the Food Network. I like watching Do It Yourself television.
Right.
My wife got me hooked on these things, and I don't mind saying it.
Right.
And I'm saying I can hear Eric. I can hear Eric saying that with his glasses on, and you sitting there, and you cracking up, and he's straight faced about it the whole time.
Right. That's exactly. And that's an achievement as a writer.
Sure.
To get the thing in your voice.
Right.
And you do feel like you're listening to Mason, and not only that, but you're getting through the book. I thought he skillfully wove into the book much of his own story. The book's about Jesus, no doubt about that. But Eric Mason, the person, was making contact with Jesus into sharing the bits of his own story. His dad as a Buffalo soldier, or growing up in D.C. Little bits of songs, singing a little Bobby Brown or something. I mean, it was a lot of Mason in appropriate ways, which gave the book a kind of authenticity.
Okay, so and I don't know how you give away books. I do at barbershops and stuff like that. You give it away?
Mostly in the church.
In the church?
Yeah, so Wednesday night Bible study, Sunday night prayer meeting.
You give it away?
I'll give out 2 or 3 titles.
Well, okay, if you're giving this book away to someone, what would be your tagline in handing it to someone? Like a takeaway that you've got from the book, and you're kind of summarize the book in the tagline. You too, Carter.
I'd say this is the best encouragement I can give you for being a man that would please God.
Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
Carter.
Yeah, I'd probably say, believe it or not, as much as anything else, the church needs godly men. And this right here is going to encourage you to be what God and the church really needs, is to be a man. Yeah, we use it in our Bible study, as we are taking men through it.
Wow, and it just came out.
Basis. Yeah, it just came out, and we're using it in our church already. Yeah.
Wow,
Sweet.
wow.
Sweet.
So we always, this is the front porch, right?
Yeah.
So what's the next work for Eric Mason? What should he be doing? Sequel? What's next for Eric?
We like to order people's private lives.
That's right.
Plan his life.
Sometimes they don't know how to do it. What's next for Dr. Mason? Because this was his first time out.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a connoisseur. I don't know. You guys write all the time, and I thought this was a good book. Read a guy's first book is kind of.
I think he ought to write a book called Rockin' a Bow Tie While Loving Jesus. A book on biblical manhood and fashion.
In fashion. Well, listen, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the brother's a gifted brother. I think topics are wide open to him. I look forward to getting more from his pen, whatever that is.
Sure.
Me too. Well, thank you, brothers.
Thank you.
It's been good as always.
Good
Good sitting, talking with you on the front porch.
Amen.
Flying away the gnats and the flies.
So they need to know this is a real front porch.
This is a real front porch.
We out here at sunset.
And we got to go inside.
That's right. That's right.
Some lemonade and some tea right over there.
Right over there.
I'll get you some.
Thank you, brothers.
Thank you
very
brother.
much.
All right. God bless.